How is everyone today?
Yeah, energy.
Oh, packed house. Look at that.
Thanks for being here on a Friday. I think everyone's pretty conferenced out, but I appreciate it.
So today's topic that we have is a little bit different maybe than previous gaming topics. It's about NFT gaming communities and what makes them successful. So let's start with a round of introductions. Starting from Max.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Max Murphy. I'm the CTO over at Congregate. You probably all saw Marcus right before us, and he gave us pretty in-depth of what we're doing, so I won't go that far, and I'll pass it along.
Nice. I'm Zoe. I'm the relationships manager of a Web3 fund called SL2 Capital. We're based in Dubai. I live in London, and we basically just invest in metaverse projects and GameFi.
I'm Anna, and yes, I'm also based in London. I'm CEO and co-founder of a game called Rogues. And yes, that's my first time in NYC.
Woo!
Woo!
Hey, welcome.
Big Apple.
Okay, so I think we can start with the definition of what is it that what is an actually gaming community when it comes to NFTs and gaming. What is our understanding of a gaming community in Web3? What do you think, guys?
I'll go first. I'll take that one. So I think it boils down to three things. It's creators, because, firstly it's gamers, because they love to play, obviously. And then creators, because they're the ones that realize that you can actually have your voice heard in a community rather than just being in the audience. So you can join a Web3 gaming community and actually interact with fellow gamers and have a voice in the arena and how the game is made and how it works. And then lastly, it's the innovators, because I think innovators are really important in this space, because you come in and you can see that the potential of the Web3 technology and the blockchain, and it's not just about gaming, it's about owning your own assets.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Running a huge Web2 gaming community that's slowly moving into Web3, it is the creators. We're the kind of in the middle between the player and the creator. Yeah. And most of the time, the creator is the innovator, right? So getting those two together, and we're hugely community driven. I mean, our Discord will tell us about bugs in partners' games before our partners QA will even find them. So like, these are invested players that love everything about games.
And they get blockchain. They understand it. Yeah.
And they're there.
Yeah, for me, gaming community is maybe a little bit slightly different than NFT community per se. But when it comes to gaming community in Web3, I think these are people that very much want to take ownership of their assets. They want to have a say in how a game is created and how the project gets developed. So, but I do think that it's probably less people than overall the NFT communities, right? Not all NFT communities are gaming communities and vice versa, right? So I think probably at this time, we're still talking about more niche communities that are interested in ownership of their assets as well as gaming together. But yeah, it's very exciting times, because I think for me, it's starting out, more and more communities are realizing that ownership of their assets in the shape so it's really exciting times, I think.
Yeah. Well, essentially all in Web2 gaming, you have the assets, but you don't own them. And then people sink millions and millions into these games each year. But in Web3, I think slowly people are starting to awaken to the fact that you do own the assets and they're yours, and you can trade and sell them if and when you want to.
And what do we think about essentially incentives when it comes to gaming? I think this is a very controversial topic, right? Last year it was called play to earn. Now we're talking Web3 gaming. What do we think about incentivization, and specifically financial incentives, when it comes to creating a community in Web3?
Well, having built a community partially with financial incentives, it becomes a hollow community. I hate to say it, like, it becomes very hollow. People just want the next free thing and don't get involved with the game or the rest of the community. Everyone just comes in, signs up. Yes, I want that airdrop. Give me that. But as there's more people that actually just want to own what they're doing in their game, giving them things that aren't of monetary value, that are of game value, of playability value and utility value to them is much greater and is going to build a stronger community because they aren't looking for the next free thing. They're looking for the next thing to pull them deeper into that community.
I also don't think it's necessary to say you're going to earn crypto in a game. The play to earn was very much like you can do it, but you don't need to do it. I think gamers don't really care about money, and that's what I've kind of seen. They play the game to socialize and hang out with their friends and kind of like work down at the end of the day rather than continuing to make money. So I think it's not necessary. You don't have to have in-game currencies and things like that. You just have to have a fun game, and like you say, just the ability to own.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll definitely second that. I think the times where tokens and financial incentives in gaming are prevalent, I think those times are over. So players, there are 3 billion players on the planet, right? They, like you said, Zoe, they do want to have fun, socialize, play with a friend. Having a financial incentive is not the way to create a community for the long term. It may drive certain people, it may attract certain audiences, but in the long term, the players need to have fun, they need to enjoy the games, and that's what is going to make them stick. But I do still hear play to earn as a term mentioned here and there, but very rarely, and I think that's generally it's somewhat misunderstood, right? So definitely the industry has moved around to let's create a game that is good. Let's deliver that to the community. And this is the only way to make them happy, the only way to make them stay in the long term. And I'm glad that it's come to that point, right?
Yeah, well, I think if you have a Web2 gamer and you bring them into your game, you'll bring them in to play the game, to have fun. But then if you can teach them along the way in a very subtle that actually what you're doing in this game is you're starting to have self-custody and it's decentralized, then they'll probably cotton on to the fact that actually this is what Web3 is all about. And then once you've taught them slowly, then they'll probably, why would they say no? Why would they suddenly turn around and say, actually, I don't want to own my own assets. I want to go back to Web2 and I want the conglomerates to have the IP. Why would they do that? So if you could teach them slowly, I think that's when they'll stick.
I agree, yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think, so this brings us back to the next question. Like, what has changed in the past few months, right? What has changed since last year when everyone was talking about tokenomics and, earning money through playing? What do you think, what's happening right now?
I feel like right now people want to see games. For years of buy a token, play a game in 2020 something, people got fatigued by that. It's given the industry, the Web3 gaming industry, honestly, like a really bad reputation of vaporware almost. Every project's vaporware at that point. We're going like a little side route where we're taking Web2 game and extending it with Web3 capability. And we're finding users from the Web2 realm saying, "Oh, you mean I can do this now?"
Curious ones. We need
and then they become curious. Yeah, and then they convert, right? And that's what we want to teach these communities and teach the gaming community, because the narrative in the gaming community over the years has been what? It's bad for the environment, it's a cash grab, it's vaporware, it's this, it's that. Well, let's just prove the technology, not prove the revenue generated by the technology right now. Like, we have to prove it before we do anything else.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with the narrative that comes the language, and I think it's the language which sometimes is the mistake, and the way it's marketed. If you're using too technical terms, you'll lose the Web2 gamers. You'll have the Web3 gamers, but the Web3 gamers don't really exist right now. Yeah, I think it's the language that you need to use. You need to kind of style it as a Web2 game, but then have the Web3 in the back. And if you want to interact with the Web3 elements of the game, you can. You just don't have to.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I've seen in the past few months is more and more NFT communities moving into gaming by realizing that, well, their NFTs have to have some utility. It's nice to have utility. So, controversial, right? I'm sorry. But
so are you saying build a game has become launch a token in 2023?
More or less, no. But it's definitely that. And one thing that I noticed, it's very interesting, right? I spoke to a CEO of a famous DAO where the NFTs are now at the lowest at 2-3 ETH. And I talked to him about their community. And I said, why don't those NFTs, I'm not going to name which one, but why don't these NFTs be used in other games? And he was like, well, my community, so they wouldn't like the NFTs to be used in just any game, right? It has to be sandbox. It has to have a big name behind it. And I was like, that's very interesting. Players that are not NFT centric, they just want to use their asset, right? They want to play, they want to have fun. But I think NFT communities can be a little bit different, as in like, it's all about the brand association. It's all around status
The
more
flexing.
than fun. And I think maybe controversial for some, but I really see this distinction between pure players that just want to have fun,
not
and
speculate.
NFTs, they're just about status and like brand affiliation. And I think that's the main difference for me.
Yeah, definitely. But then talking about communities, you could have some communities where that's maybe more credible. I mean, if you're wanting to come out and flex and show off your stuff, then you join that community. But there are different tribes for different people and different communities for different players and different games for those communities. So I think you just got to find your tribe and then go with it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, absolutely. So there are different types. I think, yeah, when it comes to like makeup of a community, for me, again, it really depends on the type of game as well, right? There's some more competitive communities out there, like for first-person shooter games. I could definitely see the makeup of the community is more geared towards that versus, say, collaborative or MMORPG that is more around gathering resources and like doing more things together. And I really see, for example, in the first-person shooter communities, yeah, definitely more about competitiveness. So yeah, there is definitely that kind of hierarchy and makeup of the community that's guided by the type of game that's being built as well. I feel that there is that nuance as well. What do you think, Max? You have a
Yeah,
rich
no,
community.
it's definitely, there's a niche per genre. There's slight crossover between them, but for the most part, it's like FPS players are going to play FPSs. Platformers are going to generally play platformers. Maybe go into like the endless runner realm, but that's still a platformer. And and then the RPG, MMO RPG, and like classic RPG. That group is a whole different animal, right? There's you can divide that into 8 different genres, right? So, but everyone has their jam, and that's what they want.
Everyone has their niche.
And what do we think about brands and like big, more established organizations getting into this space? So, for example, yeah, there is a lot to be said about AAA games and larger organizations bringing their community into Web3. How is that panning out?
Well, it's like oil and water, as we've noticed in our Web 2 and Web 3 hybrid community. They don't get along. They infight a lot. And our goal, our community moderators' goal, our community managers' goals, and even our marketing team's goals are to be the emulsifier between that oil and water and create one thicker, better thing for everyone out of it. And it's an uphill battle. I'll say it. It's continuing to be an uphill battle, but it's less steep every year.
Yeah, I think definitely AAA games, we have seen, and we're still seeing some pushback from their communities around, like you said, oil and water, but it is happening, right? And I think one way in which those big brands have managed to go around the pushback from certain players is around essentially not making NFTs, calling, for example, NFTs digital collectibles, or including the Web3 in a convoluted way. So not making Web3 front and center, but more like including it as a technology. And I think we'll see more of that, right?
I think we're going to see a lot more, especially, I mean, my joke I told you both earlier is, it's called Web3 because it takes 3 clicks to do one in Web2 because you have to sign this, that, like all through this wallet interface where I just want to play a game. I mean, I'll tell a story of buying 5 digital assets, 2 different types of tokens, finally launching this game, getting into it, and it had no first-time user experience. I didn't know what the hell to do. I dropped, nearly $1,000 on pieces for a game,
Which you don't own.
which I own. I
So
own the NFTs. and I own the tokens, but there is nothing telling you how to play the game.
So it comes down to education.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about language and the convoluted ways of which we can not cheat people into buying them, but just make them understand it, or maybe more relatable. I think NFT is a term; it's a technical term. So I think when it first came out, it was the only way you could describe it is through the technicalities. But now people are looking into avatars and digital collectibles, like you say, Anna, and making it more kind of human.
The Reddit vault, right?
Yeah, Reddit. Oh my God, the Trojan horse theory.
Yeah, definitely. I think onboarding has been an issue that we have been talking about for a few months. And like what you said there, right? The 3-click solution. I think what's happening right now is more and more games integrate Web3 in a seamless way, allow users to just log in with email and password if they want to. For our game, we've already integrated a third-party solution to do that. So we know that the only way to bring larger communities, the players into the game, is to make that user experience, that entrance into the game very seamless. And I think following from that, we're seeing also free-to-play versus...
Yeah. I think it's good to have the both. I think the free-to-play, and then you can pay with fiat and your credit card if you want to buy a skin. But then if you want to, as I said before, interact with the Web3 elements, you then go onto the website, create a wallet, and then you could go from there. But yeah, definitely have the both. That's what we're seeing. And it's more of like a Web 2.5 ethos, I'd call it. Don't you think?
Did you say Web 2.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we say internally quite often. Like, I see smiles in the crowd.
Necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, we have to note the role of smaller studios as well, right? I think a lot of us here, I don't know if you guys are creating games or projects yourself, but a lot of people in this industry are still smaller studios. For gaming, for me, I'm really passionate about this because a lot of innovation, I feel, and some great communities are born from indie studios and the smaller studios. So going back to, yes, the AAA approach, that's one approach. They have the funds to do whatever they want. But how about the smaller studios? What are the best way for them to build community in a most efficient way? What do you think?
I'll let you take that.
I'd say come to congregate, but I'll pass it on to someone else.
Well, I think big brands coming to the space provides credibility for the space, right? But I think they should be open. The big brands should be opening to partnering with the indie game developers and the smaller studios, because I think co-marketing, and like I said, when you have your tribe and you have your tribe resonates with the people in it, or the people resonate with the ethos of the tribe, you then find another community that has that similar vibe, and then they co-market really well together, and then you just grow and grow and grow. So I think if it can trickle down from the big brands to the small brands, that's when it would work, and like raise everyone up instead of just coming and taking over and often not doing it very well with poor infrastructure and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think what's happening is, we see this collaboration more and more, but we're also seeing, those smaller studios really innovating, and that's, I think there is a lot to be said about how many gaming studios were created in the past 1 year? Quite a lot. But I think with that it comes a lot of innovation as well as not so much. So it's tricky to answer this question, right? It's tricky to determine, but that's what brought me into Web3 is the ability to create a great product, a great game, and reach a lot of people without needing huge budgets as well, right? That's another opportunity. So,
and it just needs to stay creative as well. Like coming from the art world, I can see that game development is also an art. The characters and the gameplay and the colors and the backgrounds and everything around it is I mean, somewhat genius in a sense. Like I look like Red Dead Redemption. Do you know that game? I love that game. And Far Cry, like their imagination, Avatar and things like that. You just have to keep it creative.
I mean, our niche has been indie developers for 15 years, right? Like that's what Congregate was built for. It was for the indie developer that's making a Flash game or Unity game and wants a way to distribute it without giving, a huge cut to Apple, having to pay into the Apple ecosystem to even be able to build and launch. Or similar with Google, they're a lot more lenient and don't do the cash grab up front. But There's a lot of hurdles for a small development team, and then discoverability comes along with that. Like, where do you go to find Web3 games? Like, yeah, I can go on DApp Radar, yeah, I can go here, but there's no real place I can go that I can play these games, I can interact with assets, I can do all these things at once. And by providing that as a platform, we just took that off the shoulders of the developer, and they get to focus on the creativity and building that game. And that's how we capture lightning in a bottle. That's how we've seen it throughout the history of Kongregate, with our platform being essentially the top of a funnel where developers are bringing games in, and we identify through our community. Most of the time it's by gameplays, it's by what is the community getting into, to then reach out to the developer and say, hey, we see something in your game, we'd like to work with you to make it bigger.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, I think community can be a really powerful driving source for great piece of games and piece of content, but games in particular. So I think user-generated content, that's probably a great terminology, a bit of a jargon, but how is that fitting, the community involvement, how is that fitting into the next generation of games? What do we think about that?
I think UGC is like the future of this Web3 space with games. We're experimenting right now. There's something coming soon that you'll be able to create your own levels. Imagine a game where you can create your own level, say like Mario Maker, and then sell that as an NFT on a marketplace.
Also, the dynamic NFTs. If you're responsible for the value of your NFT and the metadata, and you make it better and better as time goes on, then that's amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely bullish on that. Dynamic NFTs.
Yeah, I like that. Dynamic NFTs are definitely provide a lot of opportunities for games in particular around obviously changing the NFTs, upgrading, right, when your character levels up, etc. But for me, it's also the ability to allow the community to create assets. For example, in our case at Rogues, multiple times we got art generated, drawn from the community as NFT wearables for the characters in the game through a community competition. So they drew it, they vote on it, right? And this is how you can engage your communities. Get them to maybe write a story, maybe write a certain game mechanic, maybe write a mini game. So there is just so many opportunities to involve the community in the game creation process. And I think the days of like, we're the creators, they're the users, those days are gone. But yeah, so I'm really passionate about that.
Me too.
Definitely. Like you were mentioning, baking like your progress into your NFT. Like this is the things that we're extending our Web2 games with, and also the community-driven aspect of it. We're looking at the Bit Heroes IP. If you show me a screenshot of this game, I can pick out 5 things on the screen that were designed and built by the community and implemented by us. Like, there's a lot to be said there in the gaming community in general, not just the Web3 community, because we're coming from a Web2 background into Web3, and this game's 6 years into its life cycle right now, and we're now moving it into Web3. And that gives, it's ups and downs, right? But in general, the community that is involved with creating these things got really excited because, oh wait, you mean if I create something, there's a way for me to get royalties from that? There's a way for me to get rewarded from that?
It's going to change everything.
Yeah.
It is changing everything.
Awesome. So I think time for final remarks, maybe. What are our final words in summary? What's the future of gaming communities right now?
Well, I think good games take a very long time to develop. So there's ones that have been taking 2 years, 3 years. I'm excited for those ones to come out of beta and for 2024. And yeah, just excited to see how they plan out.
Yeah, the future, keep building, keep playing. I mean, every time you build something, use it yourself. I mean, that's my motto. You eat your own dog food every time you build something. And that way, you'll not only create a product that you love, but you'll take your community with you on that passion journey.
Absolutely. I think gaming has changed forever, right? No longer we have this centralized approach. So utilize your community, ask questions, involve them into the process of game creation, test early, play test often, and you'll be on a path to success in Web3 gaming.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.